You can reach us at 763-421-4900 or check out our website at champlininsurance.com.
Interesting Twitter question I want to get to here. Let me make sure I ask it correctly. I think it's from Joe Kreuzer. Yep. Hypothetically, if Mike Trout had been a free agent and willing to sign the same deal with the Twins as he did with the Angels, which is 12 years, $426 million, would either of you have made that move? Put another way, what's the max per year you think the Twins should pay a player? You want to go first, or should I?
Go ahead.
Right.
Because I think it's interesting. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So I think for another team to sign Mike Trout to 12 years, $426 million, to me, you really have to feel like he's going to win you a World Series. So you're going to have a lot of pitching. You're going to have other position players to support him. You're going to have to feel like that's going to put you over the top. I don't sign a player for $426 million so I can sell a few extra tickets a year, because I saw Twins teams where Kirby Puckett was hitting 300 and people didn't show up because the team wasn't winning. Players don't really draw fans. Winning draws fans. So you have to be really certain that A, it's not going to crush the rest of your operation, and that B, you really think you're going to win championships because of it. And how many teams can really say that? I mean, the Yankees have won one World Series since 2000, spending billions of dollars. The Dodgers haven't won a World Series since the mid-'80s, spending billions of dollars. So this is a long way of saying, no, I don't think you spend that kind of money. And, again, my conversations with people in the Twins organization, what they always tell me is their research indicates that if you spend more than a certain percentage on one player, those teams historically don't win. They win about 1% of the time. So that's an incredible gamble to spend that much money for that percentage chance of winning.
Right. I mean, all the points you made are the right ones. I believe. I mean, that's $35 million a year to a guy for 12 years. So let's call it, at least 2 cycles or maybe 3 cycles of a team having to do some serious things to replenish itself. And where are you going to get the money to replenish yourself, right? I mean, you're going to have to do some real manipulating, and it goes to the percentage that a team can spend relative to the amount of revenue they make. I mean, if people would think about that more often, they might have a little bit of better idea about how this works. But the Yankees don't have to open the gates. They can make payroll with the national TV revenue and their local TV and radio revenue rights. It's a gigantic market. Every concession dollar, every ticket dollar the Yankees have is practically goes to the bottom line. Not the case with the Twins, for example. And so it really is not a question of what's your total payroll and what it should it be in fans' minds. It's more about, let's compare how much the payroll, how much we're spending on everybody or any one player relative to relative to the revenue that you bring in, compared to everybody else. The Angels are in a better situation than the Twins for the same reason that the Yankees are. But to your point, I mean, they've had Trout under this contract for a while, and they haven't come anywhere close to winning, not even their division.
Right.
They need help, and now they're spending $35 million a year on Mike Trout, and he is probably worth it, but they got to spend more money to go get more players. And at some point in time, you watch this performance by Trout, and it's not doing any good. And you're saying, well, we need more players, we need more players, we need more players, and we got to spend more money to do it. So I think it's just absolutely wrought with all kinds of landmines and quicksand there if you spend that much money. But let's say what to your point, let's let's pick a number. I mean, have Falvey or Levine told you what that percentage is? I mean, was it 10%? Is it 5% on any one player? I mean, if it's just for round numbers, if you shouldn't spend 10% on any one player, or if you can spend, but maybe that's the max, then their payroll has to be $350 million a year, because there's 10% of it, $35 million is going to one guy. That equates to $350 million worth of payroll. I mean, okay, if you have that, and you can add players at big prices around Trout to win. Hey, that's more power to you, because he's the most exciting player to watch in the game.
Right, and of course we just did an entire conversation where we said, boy, Mike Trout, the best player in the game, probably isn't worth that contract, and that's if he stays healthy. I mean, if he has any downturn in production or any injuries, then it's just lost money.
Right. That's what I said. I mean, it's just rot with landmines and quicksand. I mean, it just is. And it gets back to my original point. I mean, you got to keep drafting, and you got to keep making shrewd trades that keep bringing you more and more good young players, because the more you have, the more are going to turn out to be really, really something for 5, 6, 8 years for your ball club.
And I'm trying to remember. I don't remember off the top of my head, because the conversation the time I had this conversation, it was like the recorder's off. It wasn't really off the record, but it wasn't really on the record, so I wasn't writing things down. But I want to say it was like 25-30% of your payroll if you spend that much, because that was the Mauer deal. They were spending around $100 to maybe $120 million a year on payroll. Mauer was making 23, so he was making like 20 to 25% of the payroll, and that they admitted did hamstring their ability to build the team. So it's somewhere in that realm. And obviously Trout's contract and a lot of these pitcher contracts are all just way above that. And, and that's the difference. And I know fans don't want to hear it, and I apologize. But, if the Yankees sign somebody for $30-40 million a year and that person gets hurt, they might not be able to survive that in terms of winning, but they can survive that in terms of their business structure. If the Twins signed somebody like that and they got hurt, I mean, they really just might not function for 5 years.
Well, it's really true, and we've seen it happen. I mean, I keep going back to after 2010. Mauer got hurt, Tomey got hurt, then Justin Morneau got hurt not long after that, and they looked up, and they didn't have anybody in the minor league system and they didn't have anybody to trade to get anybody in the minor league system. I mean, that was they were in a hole. There's no question about it, and they've kind of, I read that both Falvey and Levine have made comments to the effect of, first of all, we had to stabilize the organization, and now we can move forward in helping add pieces. Well, what does stabilize the organization means? It means getting back to a point now where they have options in young players helping, young players being traded for key pieces, and enough players that if someone gets hurt, they're not they don't go into the 5-year hole that you're talking about.
Right. Question from Matt Neppel. Not a question, but a comment. Wife and I watched Christmas Chronicles based off Roy's suggestion. It was really good. Thank you. Do you have any TV, movie, or music recommendations for us this week, Roy?
Well, I guess we should stick. I've got a statement to make about music and about a song, but maybe I'll save that, because this being the Christmas season. Maybe I'll save that. But I've got something that's been kind of rattling around with me for a while. I'm going to make a huge statement about the best song that there has ever been in non-classical music. I mean, we're not going to count Beethoven and Bach and Mozart, but I mean, everybody else. I'm going to make a statement that people can at me about if they want, but I'm going to save that. Speaking of the Christmas Chronicles, I'm glad that the listener enjoyed it. And my daughter called us up yesterday and said, "Okay, we watched the Christmas Chronicles last night." Now, this is my adult daughter, and one of my more cynical. She's of all my kids, she tends to be a little bit more realistic and realism and cynical. But she said, "I don't know how you guys like it. It was really corny, and we didn't like it." Well, that's true to some degree. It's a little bit corny, but I see Christmas movies through, as if I were 9, or I think about my grandkids watching, or my kids when they were young and not so cynical. and this is a really cute movie for people that tend to look at Christmas movies the way I do. So just a little caveat for people. Some people may watch and say, okay, this is tired stuff and is a little corny. I think that works for watching Christmas Chronicles with your kids or grandkids. And then I'll just finish off my top 3 movies, Christmas movies for me every year. I mentioned Christmas Chronicles, The Christmas Story, and Christmas Vacation. Those are I think the 3, my top 3. How about you?
My 3 are. I won't do it in any particular order. I will say that I agree with you on Christmas Story. I agree with you on Christmas Vacation, and I'm actually stunned as somebody who doesn't like corny, who doesn't really like the actor I'm about to reference, or doesn't always like the actor I'm about to reference. I loved Elf. I think Elf is just fantastic.
Everybody loves Elf except for me. And you're right. I mean, I should like it. Seeing that through the eyes of kids, I should. I mean, I'm making I'm contradicting myself. I guess, but I just have such a hard time with Will Ferrell. He's too silly for me.
I know.
I can take him in 5-minute doses. I mean, like in Wedding Crashers, the 5 or 6 minutes he was in that was. I mean, I was howling. I was laughing. I mean, he was fantastic. A couple of lines in was it Talladega Nights? I mean, My kids have me watch that. I mean, a couple. I'm just hilarious. But for the most part, he's just a little too. It's too silly for me to spend an hour and a half. I just can't. I just can't. But I know that I am in a minority, maybe of one. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody that doesn't like Elf, and I'm sure it's because for me, it's just my problem with Will Ferrell for large periods of time.
And I'm like you. I only usually like Will Ferrell in very small doses. I just thought his silliness was perfect for that role.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's right.
All right, next week I want to talk about Oscar Gamble, Paul McCartney. We'll talk about more Christmas music, movies. Maybe we'll do favorite Christmas songs because I certainly have some of those that I absolutely love. I'll tell you about a great documentary I recently saw, and but I'm going to spend the rest of the week just contemplating my state as an inertial being.
Well, I think that you've just proved my point.
Yes, absolutely. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks to everybody who listens.